My coworker tried to get me fired, so I turned his scheme into his worst nightmare. When I first started at my new job, I thought I'd landed in heaven. Great pay, amazing benefits, and a team of smart, motivated people. I'd been hired as an operations analyst at a mid-sized logistics company, and my job was to identify inefficiencies in our supply chain and recommend solutions. But in my first week, I met Brad. Brad was a senior analyst who'd been there for years, and he made it clear from day one that he saw me as a threat. During onboarding, when I asked a question in a meeting, he cut me off with a fake laugh and said, "Don't worry, rookie. The adults will handle it." People chuckled awkwardly, but I knew then he'd marked me as competition. Over the next month, things got worse. Anytime I submitted a report, Brad would find some trivial mistake to blow up in front of the team. If I made a suggestion in meetings, he'd interrupt, twist my words, or say we'd already tried that. He even started cozying up to our boss, Lisa, going for coffee breaks, and dropping passive-aggressive comments about how new hires don't always fit in. I kept my head down and focused on the work. I stayed late, checked my data twice, and double-checked every presentation. Then one Friday I got a calendar invite from HR titled Performance Concerns Discussion. My stomach dropped. When I walked in, Lisa and the HR manager were sitting there with a file full of printed emails. They told me Brad had raised serious issues about me, that I was missing deadlines, ignoring his instructions, and sending incomplete work to clients. They even had emails supposedly from me, with poor grammar and rude comments to customers. My hands were shaking, because I knew I hadn't sent those emails. I asked to see them. Some were written like I barely spoke English, with tone so rude it bordered on offensive. They were all sent from my email address, but I was sure I'd never written them. The timestamps showed them going out late at night, times when I was either asleep or logged out. Lisa was clearly disappointed, saying this kind of behavior was unacceptable. I felt cornered. I asked for time to gather evidence before they made a final decision, and they reluctantly agreed. That night, I sat at my kitchen table until 2 a.m. trying to piece together what happened. Then it hit me. Brad had asked for my help with a spreadsheet on my third day, and I'd logged into one of the communal office computers in the conference room to show him something. What if I hadn't logged out? I checked my login history, and there it was. Multiple logins from that conference room computer late at night over several weeks. I realized Brad must have used my unlocked email account to send these fake emails, crafting a paper trail to sabotage me. The next day, I went in early, printed the login logs, and gathered additional security data from IT showing I was never at the office at the times those emails were sent. I even got a friend from another team to confirm seeing Brad in the office late a few nights, when he claimed he was working overtime. I knew I had him, and I wasn't just going to clear my name. I was going to expose him for the lying, backstabbing snake he was, and make sure everyone saw exactly what he'd done. When I left off, I had discovered proof that Brad had used my unlocked email on the office computer to send fake, rude messages to clients, making it look like I was incompetent and unprofessional. I had login logs, timestamps, and even a coworker who saw Brad late at the office on nights I was long gone. But I didn't just want to save myself. I wanted everyone to see who Brad really was. Here's what I did. First, I went to IT and asked them to confirm exactly when the suspicious emails were sent and from which machine. They provided a report showing every IP address and computer name, and all the incriminating emails had originated from the conference room computer when I wasn't there. I then gathered my evidence: the IT logs, the login history, and statements from coworkers who'd seen me leave hours before the emails were sent. I put it all together in a professional chronological packet. I requested a meeting with HR and Lisa, my boss. When I arrived, Brad was there too, smugly sitting across the table, probably thinking he'd already won. Lisa opened by saying, "We need to talk about these emails one more time." I nodded calmly and slid my evidence packet across the table. "Before we go any further, I think you'll want to see this," I said. As Lisa and the HR manager flipped through the pages, Brad's confident expression started to crack. His eyes darted between the documents and me. When they got to the login history showing my account being accessed from the conference room computer at times I was nowhere near the office, Brad started fidgeting in his chair. Then came the best moment of my life. The HR manager looked up and asked Brad point blank, "Were you here late at night using the conference room computer?" He stammered, turned red, and tried to deny it. But the IT logs didn't lie. Lisa's face went from disappointment to fury in seconds. She asked Brad to leave the room so they could speak with him privately. He protested weakly, but HR was firm. As soon as he was gone, Lisa apologized to me profusely. HR assured me that they now clearly saw Brad's scheme for what it was, and that my record would be completely cleared. But it didn't stop there. That afternoon, the entire office buzzed as Brad packed up his things and was escorted out by security, fired on the spot for gross misconduct. The next day, Lisa called a team meeting. She explained that there had been a situation involving falsified communications and praised my professionalism and patience while the matter was investigated. People started coming up to me in private, apologizing for ever doubting me and telling me how shocked they were to find out what Brad had done. In the weeks that followed, things improved dramatically. The office atmosphere was lighter. My boss began giving me more responsibility and even let me lead a major project. Co-workers who'd been distant before started including me in conversations and after-work get-togethers. The best part? I learned I wasn't the first person Brad had targeted. 2 others who'd left the company under mysterious circumstances had faced similar patterns of rumor and sabotage. With him gone, HR started a wider review of his time at the company. By the end of the quarter, my efforts to improve efficiency had saved our department thousands. And at the company all-hands, Lisa publicly recognized me for my contributions. I didn't just clear my name, I turned Brad's own lies into a spotlight that showed his true nature and won the respect of my team in the process. After Brad was fired and I was officially cleared, I thought that would be the end of the story, but I underestimated how much damage his lies had caused. Even though my name was cleared, I could still feel the tension lingering in the office. Some coworkers treated me like I was radioactive. They were polite but cautious. Others still whispered about the whole incident when they thought I wasn't around. I realized if I wanted a truly fresh start, I needed to go one step further. Not just clear my name, but rebuild trust and reshape how people saw me. So I set up one-on-one coffee chats with every team member who'd worked closely with Brad or me. During these chats, I shared my side of the story, answered their questions honestly, and, most importantly, showed them I wasn't bitter or out for revenge. I told them I wanted us all to get back to focusing on what we did best, delivering great work. It wasn't easy. Some conversations were awkward. A few people were embarrassed to admit they'd believed Brad's lies. But by the end of 2 weeks, the tension began to melt away. People started smiling at me in the halls again, inviting me to lunch and asking for help on projects. Meanwhile, HR launched a quiet but thorough investigation into Brad's time at the company. They uncovered multiple patterns of manipulation, forging emails, deleting others' work from shared drives, and spreading malicious rumors about coworkers he saw as threats. They contacted 2 former employees who'd quit under suspicious circumstances, and both shared stories eerily similar to mine. HR held a team-wide meeting without naming Brad to talk about the importance of reporting suspicious behavior and promised stronger IT security. They also implemented mandatory 2-factor authentication for company emails to prevent another incident like mine. That's when something incredible happened. Lisa, my boss, asked if I would lead a small committee to help improve team morale and communication. I agreed, and within a month we'd launched a mentorship program, monthly team building lunches, and anonymous feedback channels, so no one would fear retaliation for raising concerns. By the next quarter, our department's productivity was up by 20%, turnover dropped to near zero, and our employee satisfaction scores were the highest in the company's history. At the quarterly company-wide meeting, the CEO recognized our department for its transformation and gave me a special shout-out for turning a challenge into an opportunity to strengthen our team. I felt a rush of pride I'd never experienced before, not just for surviving Brad's scheme, but for helping make the workplace better for everyone. But my favorite moment, when a coworker pulled me aside after that meeting and said, "I'm so glad you didn't let him win. You make this a place I want to come to every day." It was in that moment I realized I hadn't just beaten Brad. I'd grown stronger, built trust, and proven my worth beyond a doubt. So if you ever find yourself the target of someone trying to sabotage you, remember, don't panic. Document everything. Fight back with facts, not rage. And when you win, because you will win, use the experience to build something better. Because the best revenge isn't just exposing a snake. It's thriving in the light they tried to keep you from reaching.